So even thinking about everyday use, right? If you have a trip coming up, you might ask ChatGPT or Claude, give me the top 5 places I should go visit, right? So really, we use AI every day. It's not just the hypes anymore, right? But when you think about enterprise, the number speaks itself, right? Did you know that 88% of organizations now use self-hosted AI models? That's how much saturated, right? Literally everyone uses AI. And then when you think about the agent and MCP, those are the things that are coming up as well. Who of us here use MCP servers, host on remote? Yeah, exactly. And then when think about coding agent, so we see the GitHub Copilot, OpenAI Codex, Cloud Code, right? So we see AI really everywhere in our enterprise space. But what does it mean here is that also we see a new attack surface, right, that we never seen before, and a new behavior. So, okay. So we start seeing novel techniques, the techniques that we never seen before, right? So we see that it sounds good. It's getting attacked. So we see the AI generated phishing emails, and we also see agents powered by AI making so many API calls, right? So it used to take a team to do things. Now all you need is just one person with the right equipment. And we see a lot of different examples, but one of the things that I kind of want to call out here is the Amazon Q developer extension compromise, right? You are an AI agent with access to file system tools. This is the actual system prompt that they were able to put it on the agent, right? And then when you think about attack surface, right? It's not just about your infrastructure, but models that you download, right? So think about a Hugging Face example, right? Somebody put a malicious model with a malware or even a little bit of binary code that allows RCE, right? Remote code execution. Because you think that, okay, I'm downloading from Hugging Face or a trusted repo. So you think that you are doing everything right, but in fact, the model was tainted, right? Compromised. So it's not just about thinking about, what kind of cloud native AI services that we are using, but also the models, agents that you download, MCP service that you access to, right? So you think about the attack surface that you really have to watch out for. And this is one of the favorite subject. Do you guys know what vibe coding is? Right? Now, literally in your own language, you can express what you want to build, right? A lot of people use it. You can even build your own application that connects to your internal databases, right? And pull employment record. But what that means here is that you are introducing a new type of risk, right? You guys do vibe coding, by the way? Have you done it? Like, yeah, it's awesome. So you see everywhere now. And hold on one sec here. So again, what that means here is a vibe coding, right? You will have to make sure that even your coding environment is secure, right? You have to have a tool that regularly scans your coding environment as well as your code. The last but not least, what challenges do we face today, right? Is visibility challenge. Why visibility? Just AI is AI, right? Well, not quite. There are at least 4 different layers, right, that make up a single AI application, right? Think about infrastructure. We perhaps all operate in cloud, right? You might use AWS, OCI, GCP, hopefully GCP, and Azure, and so on. But then behind the scenes, you have an app, AI app, but you have to build your own infrastructure. You have to operate, right? You have to apply best practices, making sure that doors are locked, windows are closed. So for this case, for example, you have a container, containerized AI agent, for example, right? That with a CVE, critical CVE that has access to sensitive data, right? So what I mean here is that if your environment is messy, bringing new AI will definitely introduce more risks, right? It's getting messier. How about model? So this is essentially, sorry, that kind of visual is a bit messed up here, but models is essentially brain of your applications, right? You have a bunch of different models, and you have tools that you use. But again, are you really sure that your models are clean, not tainted? And then data, you cannot talk about AI without data, right? Data is essentially the foundation of the AI, right? When you think about data with AI, we all think about training data, but have you ever thought about outputs that models produce, right? Can we make sure that the output is clean? And do you know who has access to the output, right? Last but not least, coding environment application, right? That's where you upload your code, could be Python, Java. But can you trace the application that you're running to your repo, right? Because that becomes so important. So think about a big enterprise. You have hundreds of thousands of people coding. And if there's an incident happens, how quickly can you trace that back to the owner of the repo, right? Who owns the repo? Who introduced that specific vulnerability or misconfig? So all those things, right? We think about as AI puzzle, but you have to be able to put all those things together, right? You have to understand all the complex layers that make up the AI. And even thinking of each individual AI-related technology, you also have to be aware of all the risks, right? When it comes to models, they have their own risks. Agents, right? Nowadays, agents have a lot of permissions, right? Think about identities. What kind of non-human identities are you assigning to the agents? If you assign your own identity, right, you're probably giving agents too much access. Have you ever thought about lateral movement? Can you make sure that the agents with your identity won't do something that you don't do, right? So the point here I want to make is that we have to be able to move at machine speed, right? We have to be able to move really quick. Why? Because our attackers have speed, right? So how can we help? So basically, this is a bit of a marketing pitch here, right? How Wiz can help you, but it doesn't have to be Wiz, right? It's just generally you have to be able to use AI to fight against AI, because speed matters, and AI will really help you to get the context that you need, right? I'm not sure if you were listening to part of my panel, that context is everything, right? When it comes to cloud, you have to be able to understand who has access to what, and also you have to use AI agent to explain to you, right? And also help. You have to use AI agent to give you the very prescriptive guidance as to how you can remediate, how you can triage any threats that you might see in your environment. So, by the way, do you guys use Wiz? By the way, anyone, who of us here we use Wiz? Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it. So Wiz is essentially a security platform. I used to say cloud native security platform, but because we support on-prem and hybrid, I kind of stay away from saying cloud. But essentially, it's an all-in-one platform that helps you to see in real time what you're running and assess risks with the right context, right? So we see with cloud where we can scan your environment agentlessly. So you don't have to even deploy agent, right? We have a proprietary technology, right, that allow us to scan your environment. And in fact, 60% of Fortune 100, right, uses Wiz, but trust us to scan the environment. But then you can also shift security left, right? With code, that's where we can scan your coding environment. Do you have any risky code? When it comes to, do you guys use SAST, by the way, static monitoring? Okay. So our SAST now is capable of identifying AI-related risks within your code, right? So for example, can you make sure that your code or your application does not take LLM output as is, right? You have to be able to sanitize that, right? Because RCE and malware. And then if you want to security right, that's where we use with defend, right? So we analyze your data at scale. We can correlate, we can make sense of it, right? I come from Splunk, so that's why being able to analyze and make sense of logs is quite important, right? It really, personally, I really appreciate how we do things here. But then I'm sorry, it's kind of really small, but what does it mean by context, right? Context is essentially everything that you have within your environment, every identity, every container, right? Every behavior. So you need to have all the context in order for you to come ahead, right, of the game. Because attackers can move fast, but what they see is the surface, right? But what we see is the context. So that's what's really differentiate us, right? That's why I think with the help of AI, we can win. So when it comes to context, instead of just giving you 500, 1 million findings, we stitch them together, right? We give you toxic combinations of risks. What really matters to you most, right? So we feel that we can literally show blast radius, lateral movement, and attack paths, right? So when you look at hundreds of thousands of endpoints, containers, VMs, you don't know what to do with it, right? But if with the help of AI, we can give you, there are 10 attack paths that allow lateral movement, allow those VMs to be publicly exposed, and then allow access to sensitive data, right? So instead of looking at hundreds of thousands of data points, you can really focus on those 10 attack paths, right? And you can go fix it. And also, when it comes to AI and how we use it, right? We use our AI to really help you to not only investigate, but triage, right? We give you a very prescriptive guidance, how you can do to contain any threats. So I want to quickly, because I only have 5 minutes, I want to quickly introduce you to 3 agents. And again, this is very weird, but this is more industry standard, right? So for example, let me just go back here. Red agent. So as the word indicates, right? Red team exercise kind of agents. But what our red agent, AI-driven, right? What it does is that it will adapt based on your environment, right? So essentially you have AI-driven red team executor, right? So instead of writing a bunch of static rules, our AI can reason and adapt based on responses. So again, red agent is so important. It's not just about CVEs, but also misconfigs. But what we really do well is that we combine different settings and misconfigs and truly show you the attack paths that you didn't know that exist. Green agent is all about helping you to remediate, right? We even give you a piece of code that you can send it to your coding agent, still human in the loop, but you don't have to do your own research, right? So that all you have to do is review, click once, and it get remediated. Last but not least, blue agent. Essentially, blue agent is someone who knows everything about your environment, right? Think of an employee who's working for your company for 20 years, knows ins and outs, and knows the latest threat trends, right? So blue agent, you can use it to investigate with a context. And also blue agent knows if any threat is real or legit or not, right? Based on behavior. Maybe somebody might be doing pen testing or it's planned actions. Blue agent is smart enough to tell you, hey, I know you just woke up 3 a.m. because somebody alerted you, right? But this is actually planned actions, right? So that's something that we do. Putting all things together, this is what a true graph and context should look like, right? You should be able to tell you have a container in question. If this is publicly exposed, if so, how this container can be accessed. We show the network paths topology, and we also show you blast radius, right? What are the associated resources, right? And we show you how, using what identity, anyone who can compromise this container has access to or can access to sensitive data, right? So that's the true context. I know there are a lot I kind of throw at you, but one thing's, again, it doesn't really have to be ways, but one takeaway is that you have to be able to build and use the graph or context like this. That's the only way you can prioritize and truly mitigate risks, right? That really affects and impact your organization. So that's all I had for the presentation. I guess we can just wrap this up unless anybody has any questions or I hope this was helpful. But I'm gonna be around if you wanna say hi, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take as well in person. Thanks.
Yeah.